smart. Before we start, you best depart. You best depart.
That's a C sharp.
That's a C sharp.
What was your process for finding characters for all the die splits, and how long did it take?
Well, let's see. You know, the great thing about the dice splits is that they really leap off the page at you. It doesn't take a lot. Now, my job as the understudy is to give sort of the same show that that you would get if Jefferson were playing. So if I had to go on, I would do as much. So as a courtesy to the other actors on stage, you don't want to do something completely different that throws the other actors. But Jefferson, I can tell you that one of the ways Jefferson found these characters is that he has an extensive hat collection. And we were doing a reading, we had maybe a week to learn the whole show, learn all the music, and it was his first time doing it, and he was trying to wrap his head around how am I going to create these 8 different characters. And he said, well, I've got this huge hat collection at home, and he brought in hats for each one of these different characters. And that they kind of ended up in the show. I mean, not his personal hats, but iterations of those hats have all come in. And so you've got a top hat for Lord Adalbert, and a top hat for and a boater for the dandy, and you have got a priest's frock for the priest and things like that. And so it was as Jefferson likes to say, it was a process of working from the outside in. But what's so great is that in the script is that the characters really just kind of leap off the page. And so you have a lot to go on right there in the words. And you can always go back to the words.
You guys came up with 8 characters in 1 week.
Yeah, I mean, more than that. I mean, Jefferson has, 8 characters, but everybody else has got, 600. I've got, 14 costume changes is my, here, Taylor here, or that there, and you try to bring something individual. When there are only 6 of you in the ensemble, you're going to show up. You're not. It's not like a big chorus number where you're just trying to be like the chorus and exactly like the person next to you to give kind of a uniform look. You're all characters. And our choreographer Peggy, he said, it's interesting working on this show that I'm not working with a bunch of chorus boys and choreens. I'm working with a bunch of principal actors that happen to be in the chorus.
Okay, was there ever a point in the early years of the show, like after the nascent stages, when it wasn't the plan for one actor to play all 8 parts?
No, it was always the plan. The writers initially had the rights to this old movie, Kind Hearts and Coronets, which is Alec Guinness. Do you guys know who Alec Guinness is? He was Obi-Wan Kenobi in the first, the original Star Wars series. But prior to that, he made. This was sort of his breakout movie, Kind Hearts and Coronets, and he played all the parts. And initially, I think in that movie, they had thought, oh, we're going to divide it between a couple of different characters, but he convinced the director that he could do them all. And so the writers initially had the rights to that show, and then that idea has subsequently stayed on.
I have a question.
Yeah.
For you. Before you mentioned, especially for the 2 parts in the show, it's important to do a cool down. Is that honesty and?
Well, it's important for everybody to do a cool down at the end of a show, but particularly if you tend to be doing high intensity singing, a lot of the rock pop shows that are on Broadway, of which we are not one, as you can tell. But especially those kinds of shows. But if you're singing way up in the rafters, like Phoebe and Monty, or somebody like Jefferson who's doing, or Price when he's on the dice quiz, and they're doing 8 different voices, and you're going to hear some of the voices today that you're going to hear Jefferson do. It still boggles my mind. You go, how does somebody do that 8 times a week? It really is. It's kind of a freak of nature. So when you're doing those kinds of things that take so much of your instrument, require so much of you, it's really important that at the end of that 2.5 hours, you also cool it down like a runner who brings himself back down to neutral.
I think we have time for one more question.
Great.
What has been your role as a music director in this process? Like, what have you do?
It's been really an interesting journey for me because I auditioned to be a part of this show even before I lived in New York, weirdly enough. I was living in, anybody from Colorado here? Oh, Coloradans, come on. Anyway, me, it's me. I'm the Colorado guy. So I came out and auditioned for Steve at the time, and then unfortunately the show got put on hold for a number of reasons, which was very upsetting for everybody, but it got put on hold for a while, and I didn't hear anything more about it. And then I was brought in to be involved for the Hartford production, at which point I was doing what I am now, which is I was the associate music director, working alongside Paul Starova, who, I don't know if you guys will meet him today, but he will be conducting the show today. And then when we went to the Old Globe, Paul was not available, so I stepped up into the music director role. And then now here we are on Broadway, and I've come back to be his associate. So ours is a somewhat unusual show for the music director because we don't just stand and wave a baton in front of lots of musicians. We're actually what we call piano conductors. A little bit of what you saw me doing today. We're actually sitting at the piano and keeping all of the instruments together. There's little cameras that are watching us, and each musician has a little screen monitor on their music stand so they can see us. It's a lot of work, and I'm happy to say the tour that's about to go out will not have a piano conductor. It will be a traditional baton conductor because, well, for a number of reasons. But it's very difficult to follow a piano conductor, and if you're moving to a different city every week and you have brand new musicians, it's too much. It's too much work. But we've fine-tuned what we do here in the city.
Also, one of the reasons why there's a piano conductor in the city is that the orchestra pit is very small.
Mm-hmm.
It's very, very, very long, and that's why you have the monitors. That's why each instrumentalist has got a monitor there, because they can't necessarily, if they're sitting, where you're sitting over there, they can't necessarily see someone like this. It's not like, when you see a symphony orchestra or something like that.
Well, thank you guys so much for being here.